procedure in the minutes, right? We can go into procedures in the minutes.
Yes, correct. Okay, I'm calling to order the public meeting of the Board of Pensions and Retirement at 9:48 a.m. on April 24th, 2005. This meeting is being conducted in person in the board conference room at the board's offices on the 16th floor of 2007. Pursuant to section 21-1503 of the Philadelphia Code, electronic recordings of this meeting will be made through Microsoft Teams, conference technology, and by an audio recording. Electronic recording will be made available to the public online at the board's website without charge within 10 days. Please note that you consent to such recording by attending, participating, or speaking at such meeting. The first order of business is a motion to adopt the rules of order that the board has approved for use for its virtual public meetings and in-person public meetings. The purpose is to help ensure the accurate and complete audiovisual recordings of the meeting occur to comply with the code's requirements. The motion to adopt the new procedures, motion to adopt the new procedure properly. Motion and seconded. Moved and seconded. Any objections? Motion carries. Moving on to the second agenda item. Minutes of the meetings from March 27th, 2025. Motion to approve these minutes, properly moved and seconded. Any objections?
You have to do a roll.
Oh, I do have to do the roll.
Yeah.
Any discussion? Hearing none? Rita? Approve. Paul? Brian? Oh, I switched the order. Marcia?
Approved.
Karen? Steve? Motion carries. Okay. Switch that one. So we're moving on to the third agenda item, which is the consideration of the 133, the consideration of the 133 pension applications and 55 withdrawal applications. Motion to approve. Properly, motion moved and seconded. Brian? Rita? Marcia?
Approved.
Paul?
Approved.
Lee? Lily?
Approved.
Sarah? And Sarah?
Approved.
Motion carries. Moving on to the fourth agenda item, the application for service connected disability benefits. We will start with case 4A. A motion to approve. Getting my strength. Okay. A motion to approve the case for Mary Beth LaVan for service connected disability benefit for service connected disability benefit. Moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. Brian?
Motion.
Gina? Marcia?
Deny.
Paul?
Staying.
Andrew? I mean, Lee.
What?
Willie?
Denied.
Sarah? Carol? So with 4 denials and 4 abstentions, motion is denied, correct?
Was it 4?
Ryan,
No.
Brian, Paul, Tara, and you.
I said denied. Terry said abstain.
I said the same.
I had Brian, Paul, Karen, and Carol. Same.
Okay.
4 abstentions and 4 denials.
He said no, he denied it.
No.
Denied.
You. I'm asking.
Moving on to case 14. Motion to approve the application for service disability for Darren McLendon. Properly moved and seconded. Discussion? None. Brian?
I approve.
Rashida?
No.
Marcia?
Approve.
Paul? Paul? Lee? Willie?
Approve.
Sarah?
Approve.
Carol?
Approve.
Motion
Any change?
Motion carries with 7 approvals and 1 denial. Moving on to case 4C. Motion to approve the application for service connected disability for Clinton, Benoit, and John. Properly moved and seconded. Discussion? Ryan?
I approve.
Rashida?
No.
Marcia?
Approve.
Lee? Paul, I'm sorry. Yeah, Paul? Paul? Just keep it, I'm channeling my inner rock.
It's okay. Approve.
Willie?
Approve.
Sarah? Approved. And Carol?
Approve.
Motion carries with 7 approvals and 1 denial. Moving on to case 4D, the motion to approve the service connected disability benefits for application for Brendan Bird. Properly moved and seconded. Discussion? Hearing none. Brian?
Deny.
Rashida?
No.
Marcia?
Deny.
Paul?
No.
Lee? Willie? Sarah? Carol?
Deny.
Motion fails with 8 denials. Moving on to case 4E, motion to approve the application for service connected disability benefits for Kyle Bobby. Properly moved and seconded. Discussion? Hearing none. Brian?
I approve.
Rashida?
No.
Marcia?
Approve.
Paul?
Approve.
Lee?
Approve.
Willie?
Approve.
Approved.
Yes.
Tara? Carol?
Approve.
Right, motion carries with 7 approvals. Moving on to case 4F, we motion to approve the application for service connected disability for James Bloom. Properly moved and seconded. Discussion? Hearing none. Brian?
Deny.
Rashida?
No.
Marcia?
Deny.
Paul?
No.
Leah?
No.
Willie? Kara? Carol?
Deny.
Motion fails with 8 denials. Moving on to case 4G, the motion to approve the application for service connected disability for Timothy Brogan. Properly moved and seconded. Discussion? Hearing none. Brian?
I approve.
Rashida? Marcia?
Approve.
Paul?
Approve.
Lee?
Approve.
Willie?
Approve.
Sarah?
Deny.
And Carol.
Approve.
Motion carries with 5 approvals and 2 denials. 6 approvals and 2 denials. Moving on to case 4H, a motion to approve the application for service connected disability for a Robert Ryle. Properly moved and seconded. Discussion? Brian?
I approve.
Rashida? Marcia?
Approve.
Paul?
Approve.
Lee?
Approve.
Willie?
Approve.
Sarah?
Approve.
Carol?
Approve.
Motion carries with 8 approvals. Moving on to case 4I, motion to approve the application for service connected disability benefits for David Baker. Properly moved and seconded. Discussion? Brian?
This is for I, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Rashida? Marcia?
Deny.
Paul?
No.
Steve?
Deny.
Willie? Sarah? And Carol.
Deny.
Motion fails with 8. Moving on to case 4J, a motion to approve the application for service connected disability benefits for Sheila Jones. Properly seconded. Discussion? Hearing none. Brian?
Abstain.
Rashida,
Deny.
Marcia,
Deny.
Paul,
Abstain.
Lee,
Deny.
Willie,
Approved.
Kara,
Deny.
and Carol. Okay, so motion carries with 4 denials, 3 abstentions, and 1 approval.
Yes.
Okay, sorry, motion fails, thank you, with 4 denials, 1 approval, and 3 abstentions. Moving on to case 4K. A motion to approve the application for service connected disability for Daniel Hopkins. Properly moved and seconded. Discussion? None. Brian?
Approved.
Rashida? Marcia?
Approve.
Paul?
Approved.
Lee?
Approved.
Willie?
Approved.
Kara? Carol?
Approved.
Motion. Motion carries with 8 approval. Motion carries with 8 approval. Thank you. Moving on to case 4L, motion to approve the application for service connected with disability for Christopher Lee. Properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. Brian?
Approved.
Rashida? Marcia?
Approve.
Paul?
Approved.
Lee? Willie?
Approved.
Kara? And Carol. Motion carries with 8 approval. Moving on to case 4M, a motion to approve the application for service connected disability for Kimberly Lopez.
I'm going to table it. It's because some everybody first comes to right on something and
So the motion to table this for a month and revisit it next meeting is on the table. Anybody? Brian seconds. Any discussion? No. So a motion to approve the table in this case. Brian,
Approved.
Rashida, Marcia, Paul,
Approved.
Lee,
Approved.
Willie,
Approved.
Kara, and Carol. The motion to table it for a month here is with 8 approved. Moving on to case 4N. The motion to approve the application for service connected disability for Roxanne Madry. Properly moved and seconded. Discussion? Hearing none. Brian? Rashida? Marshall?
Deny.
Paul? Lee? Willie? Sarah? And Carol? Motion fails with 8 denials. Moving on to case 4O. A motion to approve the application for service connected disability for Antonio Marisco. Properly moved and seconded. Discussion? Hearing none. Brian?
Approved.
Rashida? Marcia?
Approve.
Paul?
Approved.
Lee?
Approved.
Willie?
Approved.
Sarah? And Carol. Motion carries with 8 approved. Moving on to case 4P, the motion to approve the application for service connected disability benefits for a Thomas O'Brien. Properly moved and seconded. Discussion? Hearing none. Brian?
Approved.
Rashida? Paul? Marcia?
Deny.
Paul?
Approved.
Lee? Willie?
Approved.
Sarah? And Carol.
Approved.
So motion carries with 5 approvals and moving on to case 4Q, a motion to approve the application for service connected disability for Maurice Rose. Properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. Brian?
Deny.
Rashida?
Deny.
Marcia?
Deny.
Paul? Lee?
Deny.
Willie?
Deny.
Kara? And Carol. Motion failed with 8 denials. Moving on to case 4S, the motion to approve the application for service connected disability for a Sean Westifer. Properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. Brian?
Aye.
Rashida? Marcia?
Denied.
Paul?
Denied.
Me?
Denied.
Lily?
Denied.
Sarah?
Aye.
And Carol.
Denied.
Motion fails with 8. Moving on to case 4T, a motion to approve the application for service connected disabilities for James Lloyd, properly moved and seconded. Discussion? Hearing none. Brian? Rashida? Marcia?
Approved.
Paul?
Approved.
Lee?
Approved.
Willie?
Approved.
Sarah?
Approved.
And Carol. Motion carries with 7 approvals and 1 denied. Moving on to case 4U, the motion to approve application for service connected disability benefits for Monte Gutierrez. Properly moved and seconded. Discussion? Hearing none. Brian?
Approved.
Rashida? Marcia?
Denied.
Paul?
Approved.
Lee?
Denied.
Willie? Sarah?
Denied.
And Carol.
Sorry,
Sarah?
Denied.
And then Carol.
Okay.
And then Carol, you were denied, right? Yeah.
Yeah, well, this is you, right?
Yes.
Motion fails with, yes, sorry, I think 6 denials and 2. Moving on to case 4B, motion to approve the application for service connected disabilities for a Leon Jacob. Properly moved and seconded. Discussion. Hearing none. Brian?
Approved.
Rashida? Marcia?
Approved.
Paul?
Approved.
Lee?
Approved.
Willie?
Approved.
Sarah? And Carol. Motion carries with 7 approvals and 1 against. Moving on to application 4W, the motion to approve the application for service connected disability benefits for a Eric Jenkins. Properly moved and seconded. Discussion. Brian?
Approved.
Rashida? Marcia?
Approved.
Paul? Lee? Billy?
Approved.
Sarah? And Carol. Motion carries with 8. Moving on to case 4F, a motion to approve the application for service connected disability for a John Lentime. Probably moved and seconded. Discussion. Hearing none. Brian?
Approved.
Rashida? Marcia?
Denied.
Paul?
Approved.
Lee? Willie?
Approved.
Sarah? And Carol.
Approved.
So motion carries with 5 approvals. Moving on to our last case.
That's four.
Service connected, or Y. A motion to approve the service connected disability application for a LaCosta Porter. Properly moved and seconded. Brian?
Approved.
Rashida? Marcia?
Approved.
Paul?
Approved.
Lee?
Approved.
Willie?
Approved.
Sarah?
Approved.
And Carol. Motion carries with 7 approving and 1 denied. That concludes agenda item 4, the application for. We are now moving on to agenda item 5, old business. Okay, so we're first going to the disqualification case that is on our agenda. Is there a motion?
Yeah, I make a motion to send that to a hearing and because it's a complicated case that we need to, there's some additional questions to answer.
So where we do have a hearing panel available prior to the next board meeting, I think the FA board meeting, so we can offer them either a virtual or in person for that, have that, that's a date certain Or that way it can come up again at the next meeting if necessary.
That's technical.
So,
Really, just before the motion, Josh said it's a date certain, there will be no continuances, no anything. So May 20th or 21st, you'll pass no, which the is for 20th is virtual, 21st is in person. We already have plans for those days.
Virtual. In person.
Which is one of the 21st.
I see a motion on the table, and seconded, any more discussion? Hearing none, we will take a vote. Brian?
Actually.
Rashida? Marcia? Paul? Pete? Willie? Karen? And Carol? Okay. So the motion to move the disqualification case, case to a hearing is now we look at the country attorney next business. So we have a bunch of these. The motion- To start off with case 6A, a motion to approve the panel recommendation for Ron Anderson. Probably was just seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. We'll go for a vote. Brian? Rita? Marcia? Paul?
Approved.
Lee? Billy?
Approved.
Kara? And Carol.
Approved.
The motion carries with 5 no. Moving on to case 4B, a motion to approve the recommendation for Evelyn Aponte. Probably moved and seconded. Any discussion?
This is section 6 now.
Oh, 6, thank you.
6 B,
Yeah.
B.
60. Probably moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. Ryan? Sheila? Deontay? Kate Marshall? Good eye. Paul?
Approved.
Lee? Willie?
Approved.
Kara? And Carol. Approved. Motion carries with 5 nays. Moving on to case 6C. A motion to approve the panel recommendation for Renard Renee. Properly moved and seconded. Discussion? Hearing none. Brian?
Approved.
Rashida? Marcia? Paul?
Approved.
Pete?
Approved.
Sarah? And Carol. Approved. Motion carries with 5 votes and 39. Moving on to case 6D. A motion to approve panel recommendations for an in-person. Probably moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. Brian?
Approved.
Rashida? Marcia? Paul?
Approved.
Steve? Willie?
Approved.
Sarah? And Carol.
Approved.
Motion carries with 5 votes. Moving on to case 6E, motion to approve the panel recommendation for Howard Potter. Probably moved and seconded.
Want to discuss it. My initial vote was no on the hearing panel because we were focused on the back. And I had a chance to go back and reread the transcripts and the report from Dr. Hayworth, which really concerns you that his injury is mostly to his back.
And you can't stick and choose there.
His elbow is clearly doing a surgery. It's not healed. We're thinking the back to be a police officer. We can't say no because his injury is mostly due to something that isn't affecting his disability. I'm going to change my vote.
I just have a comment. The standard is solely due, so something that is not related to the work and is contributing to disability. I think that's the logic behind fighting. But I'm fighting against it.
So you're changing your vote as your,
Exactly right. My recommendation.
your recommendation. And that's allowed.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So, I still have this. So moving on, so let's move on case 16 or, held bond properly approved. Brian, Rashida, Martha, Paul,
Approved.
Steve,
None.
Lily,
Approved.
Sarah, and Carol. Approved. We have a tie before approvals of one denials, so one fair to vote tonight, vote to deny, so vote to deny. Moving on to case 6F, motion to approve the board recommendation, or panel's recommendations for the case for Michael Mills, properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, Brian, Rashida, Marshall, Paul,
Approved.
Steve,
Approved.
Willie,
Approved.
Sarah, and Carol.
Approved.
Motion carries with 5 approvals. Moving on to case 6G. A motion to approve the panel's recommendation for Virginia Bolio. Properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. Brian, Rashida, Martha,
Approved.
Paul,
Approved.
Steve, Lily,
Approved.
Sarah, and Carol.
Approved.
Motion carries with 7 approvals and 1 denied. Moving on to case 6H, a motion to approve the panel recommendations for Aisha Glover. Properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. Brian, Rashida, Marcia, Paul,
Approved.
Steve, Lily,
Approved.
Sarah, and Carol.
Approved.
Motion carries with 8. Moving on to case 6I. A motion to approve the panel recommendations for Rasha Kaliman.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's one was 6H.
6H, because this one. Aye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rasha,
Russia. Asha Glover. Aisha.
Aisha.
Yeah, Aisha Glover was 6H. H. You
I
gave us you got confused with, yeah. You gave us a yeah. Is that all right? I almost brought to your attention, but I decided to record.
Oh, Rasha.
You got confused with the other one. You got used to the alphabet.
All right, so moving on to case 6I. Motion to approve the panel recommendations for Rasha. Properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. Brian,
Approved.
Rashida, Marcia,
Approved.
Paul,
Approved.
Lee,
Approved.
Willie,
Approved.
Sarah, and Carol.
Approved.
Motion carries with 8 approvals. Moving on to case 6J. Motion to approve the panel recommendation for Rodney Merrill. Properly moved and seconded. Discussion? Hearing none. Brian,
Approved.
Rashida, Marcia,
Approved.
Paul,
Approved.
Lee,
Approved.
Willie,
Approved.
Sarah, and Carol. Motion carries with 7 approvals and 1 denied. That concludes agenda item 6. So now we're moving on to agenda item 7 with the new business, and I think I turn it over to Brandy.
More work.
Now, congratulations. Yes.
Thank you.
So I've asked Josh to start the process of looking at periodic review of the board rules, policies, and regulations. It's longer term project over the next several months. But we'll include the board and the law department once we figure out everything we have, everything we know with that. And put together a legislative something to look at if we have enough things that we can determine how to do those regulations. So just keep that in mind in contact in the next month or so. So technology, continue to work with the city chief technology officer, other experts, possibility of a tech service manager with staff. Do have people who already volunteered for something, getting close to the point where the larger group, including the trustees that were interested, will wait to start to investigate the marketplace for pension payroll processing solutions. So that's really all and deliver things for that. The board trustee election. Josh and Shaheen had a good meeting with a vendor, a successful vendor recently. Josh will be providing a specific update to the election trustees either tomorrow or Monday with the calendar and, you know, everything that has to happen. The petitions probably certainly, I think, toward June or July. And then once they're in, election takes place in October. Well, the results are in October. Election takes place now. Josh will send out those timelines. So, see where of that. New panels. Mainly to the administrative folks, we need your help. We need your help with your panels. We're trying, we have a large number of videos. We appreciate all the work that the trustees are doing, and we appreciate all the time and effort. Simply Allen with the law department's live hearings. So, what we do need the administration trustees to step up a little bit more. Like, do a great job on that. So, yes, for your help. The examination process, so it's section 403, was on hiatus during COVID mostly. That will be restarted to the next several months. It's required, it's in the code.
Pre-examination of people in this building.
That's right. But in the same parameters, if they're retirement eligible, it makes sense to re-examine that because they decided. So we will, what we'll do is we'll review all the rules that we had in place then, see if they're still, we want to tweak them or keep them, and then start that process again. And we're doing a couple of education conferences in the materials. You can see the first public mention forum is taking place in Chicago, August 17th and 19th. And then there's another conference taking place at Harvard Law School, June 23rd, 25th. That's some pension aspects to it also. It's labor focused, so it's something that I believe Carol attended previously. There are the two education conferences that are attended. That's my those.
A good thing about, is the, trustee leadership foundation, funding. So the good thing about that is small and it's all trustees, like there's no money managers, so like that, everything is trustee generated. So you're learning from networking with other trustees. And not, you know, for public meetings, not just with my thing and stuff, SCIU there, police and fire there, you know, different cities. So it's held in Harvard.
I'm glad you said it's TLF is what the trustee leadership. Yeah, absolutely. So there's the two guys.
Anyone wants to attend this, do time, I'll make the vote.
Now second.
Okay, so move the property seconded, any discussion? Here, I'm gonna go over how they. Whatever she has. Paul. Brian. Billy.
Approve.
Carol. Marcia.
Approve.
Tara. Motion carries. Anything else with our agenda itself?
No action.
No. All right, so moving on to agenda item 8, the litigation summary. Ellen?
There are 10 cases in CCP, which is a lot.
Any discussion? You conclude that agenda item, so the last agenda item, unless it can, no, we can change it. Any new business anyone wants to bring to the table?
No, I do want to say one thing, and I just want to thank the administration side that's stepping up for the year. And like I said, last week, always here in panel every week, in person. We didn't even do virtual. So it was always in person. So the administration trustee had 2 additional people that that back up for them. Elected trustees is us 4. That's all we do. So we have to make it our business to put on our schedule. So I'm just asking the same thing for the administration side. For those administration side that do they do, you know, no pun intended, but for those not stepping up, y'all gotta step up. It's not fair. I mean, I don't mind that we all trustees sit over there. We need to take all the members. Yeah, that's fine. If that's what we do. But that's what we're gonna do. But if y'all don't wanna work, then we do the work.
Well, I will say this, though, I thought that, because, you know, this is my last board meeting before that he returns. Yeah, so I thought I wanted to, I thought it was done after this, but I'm gonna stay on as an alternate. And I have, reached out to Josh to say I felt pretty concerned.
Rob has a designated King Glenn. It's deputies also as an additional, and I was remiss, I should have pointed out, the controller's office.
The controller, yeah.
And sending someone to every year. Knowing the need that we have. We appreciate it. Like Alan said, there's a lot of cases. That are people, so she's holding up our end.
I volunteered for quite a few.
You do not. I did say for those who doing their job, don't, I'm not saying, but you are just know every one of them. And so is, you're all.
And I'll say it on behalf of the MDO, there's a confusion on our side about, when we're seeing the kingdom. So I connected with Josh and I'm gonna correct that.
And so you can also point another trustee to the way.
Yes, well, and that's part of the, piece that I didn't understand and that we missed that. So, yeah, no, but, and I committed to, because I know that, Josh said that I volunteered for a whole bunch, so, you know. So help out and make sure that we need some finance as well, since, but yes, no, that's absolutely. And considering this, Josh did follow up and said, you know, Terry, you guys are missing quite a these emails. And yes. I'm interested.
So I was going to say.
Any other new business? Hearing none. A motion to adjourn the meeting. I'm gonna reference that I have to actually, someone has to move it. Second, I can move it.
Someone,
Okay, so somebody wants to move to adjourn the meeting?
I mean, I did.
Marcia moved to and Dave seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. Rashida? Paul?
Approved.
Ryan? Willie?
Approved.
Carol? Martha? Sarah? And motion carries. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Yeah, so next month, then we back.
Oh, that's what's going.
I think I know what to do. Yeah, so I'm taking a break. So it is 10:33.
Wait,
So. this morning. Meeting of the Board of Ed for the requirement for the deferred compensation plan committee meeting on April 24th, 2005 at 10:40. First agenda item is the approval of the March 2025 minutes. Moved and properly seconded. Any discussion?
Thanks, Amy.
Okay.
Any objections? Hearing none. Motion carries and the minutes are approved. Now we're moving on to agenda item 2, the deferred compensation plan updates and activities.
Good morning.
Morning.
The report, deferred compensation plan, at the end of March, the ending balance was $2,050,280,708. That's about 3% decrease from the month of February. Plan participants, 26,957, 164 more participants than previous month. Number of participants contributing is 22,433. That's about 101 more. Currently, based on account balance, there's 76% of participants are actively contributing to the plan. New enrollments in the month of March was 193, but at the end of March, which is the total first quarter end numbers, is 645 new enrollments received. So that's very, very good. It's about 2% increase from the previous time of first quarter last year. 401A, the account balance is 4,705,944. Again, it's about a 3% increase from the month of February. Plan participants, 1,465, 3 less than February, due to separation of service. That's out. Philadelphia Parking Authority, 655 total plan participants, but we did receive 7 new enrollments within March, which is really good. And then Housing Development Corporation, currently at 48, no new enrollments. When we look at the Roth participant account balances, it's pretty significant in March. Total Roth participation is 8,977. We received 193 new Roth participants, so that was pretty good. 92 million assets under management. 33% of the participants are utilizing Roth. Percentage contributions is 3,064. Again, that's about 148 more than the month of February at 15% penetration rate. Call volumes, 3,157 was received in the month of March. That's about 546. We did see, obviously, due to the market, escalated call volume. So this is pretty much aligned. In terms of online enrollments, online accounts, 21,452 participants have an online account, which is about 80%. It keeps incrementally increasing. So it's good that folks have set up the online accounts. Any questions for me? If not, I'll pass it on to Brad to talk about the service activity.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Brad. For the month of March, the local service team conducted 297 101 individual consultations, 116 enrollments into the plan with the retirement specialist. They conducted 33 group events and workshops with 820 total employees attending those events. And 25 of the were conducted using my interactive retirement planning tool on the website.
Moving on to agenda item 3 now.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. We have a report on the first quarter mutual fund investment performance. We did send out corrected version over email. Should be that updated copy should be in the folders. On a high level, we all know that a lot of our volatility, particularly on the equity side, first quarter. That was a contributing factor to how some of the funds performed. S&P, for example, fell back to close to 4.5%. That had a big, that was led in large part by what happened with the stock is seven. So defensive sectors, healthcare, consumer staples, utilities start to do a lot better. There was a big style dispersion, as we know, in the report. The growth index is also up 3,000, dropped 10%. The value index was also actually rose 1.6%. That's a huge flip to what's been going on for the past several years. Certainly the fund performance in our lineup, 13 of the 25 funds above the median 3-year period, 12 of the 25 above the 5-year period, 17 of the 25 above the median, even the 3 or 5-year period. Only one recommendation, that's to relax the watch status of Dodge and Cox. They continue to improve their performance. They substantially outperformed the benchmark, particularly in the first quarter or time periods. Not recommending any other changes at this time to the fund lineup. And we will note, a couple of the funds, particularly the small cap funds, which are often some of your most highly leveraged smaller businesses have struggled in more recent time periods, but nothing that we can do at this point warrants, looking for the fund or team response to touch on. Happy to take questions if there are any. Okay, just in terms of the Vanguard, the money market account, that's where we collect the revenue that's paid to the plan and then to pay qualifying expenses of the plan. The balance of the account at the end of March was a little over $148,000. Small amount of interest income in the first quarter, $1,553.60. We had no expenses paid out during the first quarter. We will pay plan on any expenses and plan on expenses during this quarter.
That's it. All right, and then I took out 95 with other.
That is the nationwide annual report for
Everybody has the copy of this book. So you'll notice a new format in our annual report. So I'm going to start everyone on page 5. This is the executive summary of how the year ended. And the asset balance for the year was $2,078,045,054. That's a 12% increase over 2024. I'm sorry, 2023. Plan participants, 26,578. That's 999 more participants from 2024 to 2023. Participants contributing 20,237, was 467. And new enrollments, 2,273. That's 20% increase from the previous year. The 401A plan is $4,746,817. That was a 43% increase from the previous year. Plan participants in the 401A is 1,468, which was 342 participants, a 30% increase there. Philadelphia Parking Authority total ended up for the year at 651, which is about a 21% increase from the previous year. Number of year enrollments was 115 last year. And for the Philadelphia Housing Development Corporation, that was 47 participants with 8 new enrollments, so 15% increase in terms of participants. When you look at the Roth, which is the after-tax contribution option, it ended up at 87 million. When you look at we show you the asset change, it's about 31 million more. And Roth participant count was 8,462. It's about, if you look at, we show you the annual change on the bottom, it's 1,817 folks, employees actually, joined the Roth, the participation contribution, which is about 32%. So all great solid numbers in terms of the outcome for 2024. On the bottom, you'll see 2,770 participants ended up with percentage contribution, which is about 726 more participants, or 14% of participants are actually contributing and leveraging percentage option. Call volumes, 38,559. Now, when we looked at the year before, it's about 1,558 calls less than the previous year. And then online accounts point to 1,091, which is about 1,472 participants ended up setting up their online account. These numbers could not be driven just by the work that our team does. It is very much due to the board trustees and staff's commitment in your collaborative partnership. So I want to just highlight on page 4 all the activities and the campaigns that supported Brad and his team. The first one is we can't thank you enough for adding the participant engagement program. That is the always on proactive marketing campaign that we are doing based on the participants' retirement journey. So the right message at the right time so they can take action. So that was implemented in 2024. 95% of email, their marketable participant email outreach that we can do, and the unique engagement was almost close to a little bit less than 50%. So it's working, it's great. In addition to that, one of the great things that board trustees permitted us to do was doing the virtual 3D interactive experience. So every year we offer one. Last year, it was the second year of this promoting financial wellness in a different format. It was open for 60 days from May 1 to June 20th. We sent out website communication, email outreach, as well as banners. So it was an incredible experience, but we did see engagement there. And this is going to continue on this year as well with what's known as the Retiring You. It's a very collegiate experience, and we'll send that to you before it's launched to staff for your review. There were 3 different investment updates that occurred in 2024. And one of the incredible things that we do here is the subcommittee and the board trustees that are part of it really focus on what are some of the key campaigns, education campaigns that we need to work towards. And we did 4 together. The first one was the importance of beneficiary campaign. We sent out to folks that did not have a beneficiary on record. Before we started this campaign, 90% of participants had a beneficiary on record. But then when we did the campaign, we saw an uptick to 93%. In addition to the campaign outreach, we also had statement messages, because even if someone has a beneficiary, things can change. So this is a reminder that goes on. And then the other one was Plan 10 and Plan 16. For folks that were missing in their matching contribution, we sent out an email, and about 116 participants did take the benefit of participating with the FERC to get their matching contribution. So almost 83% conversion rate from the email outreach that we sent out. The other one that was very important to the trustees was the percentage campaign, raising awareness of the value of changing the contributions to percentage options. So we did do emails, communication, web banners, hard copy to raise awareness of why it's important to change contributions to a percentage. 432 participants switched from dollar to a percentage, and over 790 participants clicked on it. Currently, 14% of participants in the plan are leveraging the percentage. So this campaign will hopefully continue on, based on the subcommittee that's formalizing for this year as well. The last one is something that's important, especially for those that are nearing retirement. This is called the Approaching Retirement Drop Education. It's ongoing that Brad and his team does throughout the year. And the result was from these campaigns, almost $72 million rolled over into the plan. Any questions? If not,
I have a couple of
yeah,
questions.
sure.
I'm really happy that we capture the age of our employees. Do we have any idea of the tenure of the employees enrolled in the various plans? Because that will help us, and I think the educational committee will talk about and help you with that. Because I think what we want to understand is people on Plan 10 and Plan 16, while we did a good conversion rate, we want to understand how many actually contributed and go after those folks to ensure that they understand the importance of contributing. So we'll be working together on that and help identify by CUC code or what groups of employees aren't. So is it DC 33? Is it 47? Is it police? Is it fire? So we're going to work together. We'll help you set in.
So, thank you. If I may, I'll just go through, we have a whole new reporting that's set up here. So on page 9, it gives you a snapshot of all the total numbers that I talked about. But what was most important is the contribution details are there. There was a 16% increase in contributions, and the distribution outflows also identified there at 13% increase. So you can see that distributions, loan payments, loan distributions, dollars that are rolling in and dollars that are rolling out are all listed here.
We have a 16% increase in contributions. I have 13.5.
196 divided by 169.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I guess the reason I want to ask a couple of questions about this. I mean, our distributions went from 154 million all the way up to 174 million. That's a massive jump. And it was already high. If you look at the rollover transfer out, that took a massive jump. Why is that?
So the rollover transfer out is included in the distribution for the dollars. And Brian, that's a really good point. And in subsequent pages, we actually highlight for you what that entails. So if we focus on distribution, if we could move towards page 13, that will identify what is happening in terms of distribution activity. There is ebb and flow, normal ebb and flow on plan, distributions like debt, R&D, retirement, and unforeseeable emergencies. But there is a substantial dollar that is moving out of the plan to outside advisors. And on the bottom, you'll see we list for you the top 5 where those dollars went towards. But it is, significant in that 83 billion, which is almost 49% of the total distribution dollars is going out towards advisors external.
The question was why?
Right, yeah. Yeah, what percentage of our retirees?
We almost all have. So
Yeah,
retirees
because
pulling
I'm
their money
thinking
out
that's
of
the
our
reason
plan.
why.
Yeah, they're
Because we've
retiring,
had
they're pulling it out, right?
Yeah,
Which means they're finding something better somewhere else. Our job is to make sure they find something better here. Why do you think that is?
Do you have any insight? Because one of the things that we have noticed as, with other plans as well, is if there's a relationship that an individual has with an advisor, they will move these dollars out because of the relationship. Oftentimes, what we have also seen is that the existing participant may not know all the benefits of retaining their assets within the plan. This is a very cost-effective plan. They will continue to have services even after they leave. And oftentimes they don't know that and they move the dollars out. And then the third is it's a personal choice. They look at the investment options and they may want to move it based on the investment choice that they have. But oftentimes what we try to do is that last campaign that I was talking about, which is the approaching retirement, there's information that we do provide and we have it available so that people that are evaluating moving their dollars out, they can compare what City of Philadelphia Deferred Compensation Plan benefits are, and then they can also compare the expenses, advisory costs, back-end charges when they roll dollars out to an outside vendor like Charles Schwab or Fidelity Management. You can see there is a big component, almost 63 participants on page 13 went to, I think this is Philadelphia Credit. Credit Union. 7 million went to the credit union.
That's all speculation, that's fine, but nowhere in there, you don't think that the 2.6% rate that these retirees are getting, when they can get a full point or more for years now, and an outside vendor is the reason for this? I didn't hear you mention that at all. I think that's the drive to. It's absolutely driving it out. And it's been years. How long have we been at 2.6?
Pretty much.
The relationships and all, I get that. I don't think a relationship.
I think since third quarter of 2022, it's when the rate went to 2.6.
For almost 3 years then. In those 3 years, rates have skyrocketed. We didn't participate in that. You don't think that that's driving them to it?
So if I can jump in, right, I think it's a very fair point. I mean, it's a very fair point. And so, that's part and partial to it. Beam is right. There's other things as well, factors that are there. The fact that it's a similar relationship will drive folks out. If they've got one deferred comp account here, all their other assets are with a local advisor, that's also going to play into it. But when you're looking at someone that is solely in a fixed account or retiree that's solely in a fixed account and they can get a higher rate, now they're able to do it. Yeah, of course, right? That's going to play into it for sure. So I think that's a very fair call out. When you look at the plan as a whole and a challenge to the executive question about there, hey, rates have gone up, why aren't we participating? And part and partial to that is simply when you look at when assets came in, by and large, the bulk of them came in during historic low periods. And then when you look at the 2 years where rates were higher, right, outflows were actually exceeding the inflows. So we weren't able to participate in that buying time period.
You
And
can't
so,
punish the members for that. Can't punish them for that. If the outflows, they're gonna follow the money. It's our job. That bothers me. We're not gonna punish them because Nationwide's investment approach didn't work out. And that's kind of what I'm hearing.
I don't think what I'm speaking to there is investment approach. It's just the reality of if you got dollars coming in, right, when rates are historically low, right, then you're buying assets at that price. If you have dollars going out when the rates are up, then you're not able to buy in when those rates are up. And that's what you see. And this is interesting. I mean, this data is right in front of me, and I believe it's been shared in the past. But like 2017, 71.7% of those big assets were invested at that point in time period when the average 10-year treasury was at 2.3%. When you look fast forward, you go in 2020, when rates were historically low, at 0.9, you had nearly 11% of the assets, or 77, almost $73 million came in during 2020 when it was at 0.9. So now the good news to the story though is, and this is just developing, right? But when you look at so far year to date, right, we're actually starting to see a positive trend of assets, which hasn't happened in several years since we've had a positive trend of assets coming in. We look at 23 and 24, you were in a negative outflow position. But when we look at 25 so far year to date, we are seeing a positive trend. So with hopes that if that were to continue, right, I don't have a crystal ball to that, but if that were to continue, depending on what rates were due, that could put us in a position where we are able to participate and hopefully see some rate increases down the road. I know there's some ifs and variables there, But that's the hope, because we want to bring value to your members too. Right? We absolutely do.
So you're saying it's based on the outflow of our particular plan?
Yes.
So the reason I'm asking that is because Nationwide has previously said that Guaranteed Life Fund has nearly 40 billion in assets with tens of thousands of investors, such as the city of Philadelphia. As such, general account products do not report spread forecasts or histories of individual plans or investors. So Nationwide, this is in writing.
Yep.
It's a letter from Nationwide. Nationwide says, oh, no, we're not considering your individual plan. We're considering the total assets of all of the investors in Nationwide. Now you're saying the opposite. Now you're saying, well, your particular plan that's in photograph. So which is,
Yeah, and I think we've talked about that in the past, and so that's another great question. Is if you look at it as a whole, it's managed with one portfolio, but there are sleeves within the portfolio that allows us to track, like Philadelphia and the investments coming in and out of Philadelphia.
I'm not saying it doesn't allow you to track anything, but that's not what this says. This says you ignore that and you track it as a whole, except when you don't want to. So I'm just wondering, what is it? What's the answer? Is this right or are you looking?
Yeah, well, the portfolio is managed as a whole, but there are sleeves like you have the City of Philadelphia investment sleeve with. And I think we've discussed that in the past too.
There we have new trustees, though. We have new trustees, and you know what? It's an ongoing issue.
Yeah.
So it's not settled. It's number one. Number two is you have 13 different asset classes within this fixed income thing. So when you say rate, it's not one universal rate, right? I mean, you have 13 different asset classes. The majority is investment grade corporate, but there's 13 different asset classes, so they all have different rates, right? And the idea is the reason it has 13 different asset classes is because they all return different, right? It's a little bit, it gives a little bit of diversity, a little bit of security. And Nationwide is supposed to bear the risk of that, right? You're running the investment, not us, right? Nationwide, not us. So why are we bearing the risk?
So when you say bear the risk, what Nationwide is doing is guaranteeing the loss of the principal, right? So that's the risk that we're bearing. It's on the full faith credit paying ability of Nationwide that the participants in the city of Philadelphia won't lose any on their principal. And that's exactly what's happened. The rate is secondary. The guarantee of principal is primary.
Right, Nationwide bears the risk in order to, quote, allow the participants to enjoy a more stable return. So not a lower return, more stable return. Reduction of 40 basis points has persisted now for over 3 years. Is certainly stable to the lower side, right? So it's something that we hear trustees, the elected trustees hear from the members. So it's a legitimate concern. It's an ongoing concern. But we were told previously when the rate has to be lower because for a period of time you had a higher rate when it shouldn't have been that high. So members are paying a price for Nationwide, I guess, doing what? Making up for the years that members had a higher rate than we thought they should.
So when you look at historically, to your point, that it's fair, there's new trustees here. At one point, this rate was at 2.5. It's been as high as 3, and today it's at 2.6. So it has varied in that period of time. So between 2.5% and 3%, the rate has varied, which, I would say has provided a fairly stable, consistent rate over that long period of time. And again, the primary objective of the fixed account, and to that point in that letter, the investment risk is that we're guaranteeing no loss of principal. When you go and look at, for example, short-term investment instruments, during that historic, collapse that we saw in interest rate markets in 2020 when it dropped down to 0.9, what were money market funds paying at that point in time? What were other stable value products paying? And potentially you could lose money in those assets like a money market account, right? Versus this has maintained that consistent, stable, rate of return and protection of principal.
Are you prepared to tell us the return that the product is getting? Are you still on the typical?
Well, the return, let's say, but I'll be here
No,
for 0.6.
The return that your product is getting.
Yeah, so you're asking what's the spread?
You're unable to do that.
Yeah, that's proprietary. That's the thing we can share.
And I'll just reiterate, I don't want to keep going for this, but trustees have a fiduciary duty to make sure that the members are getting that. And there's been a lot of lawsuits across this industry in that area. So, now knowing your return of that value, it's the rate is in part based on the spread between the rate and the returning in that product. Sure. So it's nationwide to cover costs and other things. So, I think there's an issue. There's a fiduciary duty issue there. It's going to people more information. Product or returning product in order to satisfy the buyers of others. It's not about the individual trustees, but it's about their role, fiduciary role, in order to tell the members what's going on.
You look at page 15, the only fund balance that dropped, other than funds we got rid of, is the guarantee fund. It dropped like almost $23 million. Everything else positive, right? More members. If you look at participants, almost none went backwards. The guarantee fund lost 612 participants. That's 5%. That's a concerning number. This is not small stuff. We can't just continue to bring it up with no result. It's a rock and a pond. And the answer is the rate. There'll be a few people who will roll out with relationships. I don't know that most people will follow a relationship over following fund. I think most of them are going to do their homework and figure out where can I enhance my retirement, which is our goal and our job, our fiduciary duty. Does it not concern you that that dropped by 612 participants in one period, 1 year?
No, it absolutely does. And it's spot on. It's retirees. When you look at the outflows in 23 and 24, it's driven by and large by retirees, right? And so, not for discussion probably here, but we've had conversations about what can we do around it. Things like, hey, can you have a retiree rate and have a new money rate there versus an old money rate and things of that nature, trying to problem solve, recognizing that there's certain things that we have failed to accomplish that we want to accomplish. When we look at the trading rate that's been available to the plan participants, simply because those outflows that handcuffed us from being able to participate, if you will, in a higher interest rate environment that wasn't there when we had larger inflows, if you will, into the plan when we were at historic lows in interest rates. So, those are variables that we brought to the table and are always happy to revisit and have those discussions because, just like all of you, we want to bring value to participants. We want to drive the retirement rate so we understand how valuable the fixed account or general account, if you will, can be for them as part of that, overall strategy for their investments.
Yeah, question.
You have more.
Yes,
yes.
sorry.
What was surprising, somebody wants to bring that.
You have to get fixed. It's been years. And again, as a fiduciary, this isn't me complaining. This is me making sure that it's on the record that we're aware of this and something needs to change, whether it's the product or the provider. Right? There's only two choices here. There's no other options we have. We can't continue to see, we can go back to last year and I promise you the numbers are similar, if not worse. I don't have it, but I bet you they're worse. I mean, it's been years of this, and we're just going to continue to let it happen. This isn't my opportunity to complain and you can tell me why. It's time to fix it. And if you can't fix it, then we need someone from Nationwide to get in here and explain why. And we need more information about what's going on. What's the spread? Who's making money on this product that isn't our members? And are there other vendors out there that are getting a piece of the action? I want to know all this stuff because it's my job to know. And that's what it's about. We can't keep letting this happen. It's just, look at all the numbers on the page. There's one that stands out, negative 612. Everything else is moving in the right direction. You have to address them.
The good news, though, again, is coming back to what we're seeing positive so far in the first quarter of 2025. So this is a snapshot looking at through 2024. But I do want to come back and what we have seen so far, it's been 2 years, so a couple of years of where it's been negative. Right now, so far, first quarter, it's been positive influence. So if that trend were to continue, And hopefully that would allow us to participate in an interest rate environment that would allow us to increase the credit rate that your participants are seeing. That's our goal too, right? Is we want to bring that value as well. So, and coming back to it, I'm hoping that trend continues and that this conversation pivots as we continue in this year, because then we're talking about not outflows, but we're continuing to talk about inflows. And we're talking about rate increases versus rate staying flat or level. That would be our goal.
Right, on page 10, just to show you the overall cities and that breakdown on page 10. We just wanted to highlight, like, if you can look at the participants by the age group, of those, of participants that we do have, 67% are employed and 32% are terminated. But on the left side, not only are we providing the average participant balance around 70,000, but it's more important to focus on the median participants balance, which is around 24,000. And when you look at the demographic, you'll see that there's a large concentration of folks that are 60 and over that have their account balances still here. If you look at the 2 billion in assets, 32% is in the fixed account. And we know how important this is. We are aware that people may chase rates and move. So on page 29 and 30, we did actually put together a whole analysis to understand what is going on with the fixed account. So you'll see on page 29, we're showing and evaluating and trying to figure out like what is happening here by age group. So on page 29, we actually highlight in the 457 as well as the 401A, where is the concentration of the dollars? I shared with you that 32% of the total 2 billion is invested 100% in the fixed account. And majority of those that are holding it, almost 42% of those participants are the age 60 to old. And then on the next page, we even share with you of those that have some exposure in fixed, how many are actually invested 100% in the fixed account? And you'll see that almost 52% of the participants have 100%. So the fixed rate is important, but also as you're closer towards retirement, people, if they know of a rate that it could be short term, or they may not have enough information and they do move their dollars. And we are aware of it, and we are tracking the behavior patterns and what is going on within the plan. So it's not like we're not aware of it. We are, and we're doing the best that we can on communication and education from the local service team, but also understanding the importance of what the trustees are asking. So I just wanted to let you know that. The other thing is, how is the engagement overall? So on page 18, this is a very important page of the entire report. On page 18, it's actually sharing with you what are the enablement features of the plan, and what are the behaviors and the engagement from your participants. In every category, you will see almost, we show you City of Philadelphia's adoption rate for e-delivery beneficiary participant emails. It's higher than the benchmark of all the other plans that we service, but there are two areas where there is a shortfall. One is online enrollment. Folks here really like the NEOs. When they enroll, they're enrolling, with a person. When Brad and his team are attending NEOs, so that's short, and that it's 37%. We also just implemented a whole enhanced online feature, so hopefully that number will go up in the future. And online distribution as well is lower than some of the other plans because it's a new feature, new functionality that was added. Lastly is 401e. I just want to give you a quick update on the 401e plan. Page 20. At the end of 2024, 401A plan was $4,746,870. That's 43% increase. We share with you all of the detailed activity that's here as well. The forfeiture balance account is at $55,090, which normally that number, whatever bucket is in that number, it's always used for the city uses it to fund the employer contribution or the match. So that's why that number is in a decent area of like assets and forfeiture balance account. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have on this report. It's a really extensive report. I know in the interest of time, I want to give Brad the opportunity to talk about the service.
Morning, everybody. I'm going to be real brief, but on page 31, I just want to kind of go over the yearly conglomeration of what we report out every month, which is the local service team and the work that they do every day out there when we get to the city employees, your members, your employees. The local service team conducted 2,617 one-on-one meetings with city employees and participants in the course of 2020. Probably the biggest number is they conducted 251 group events and workshops, meaning new employee orientation, online webinars, educational sessions, and of those, actually, I'm sorry, 251 different locations, 286 events that they conducted with 9,505 attendees during those events. Again, those are new employee orientation, our CFP webinars, our educational webinars, whether in conjunction with the pension board, FOP, Local 22. Just an incredible number when you think about 9,505 employees attending an educational session conducted by the local service team. On page 32, these are just some of the key events that we did throughout the year. And on page 33, you'll see a summary of our webinars conducted by Don Marcus Yellow, our CFP within the city plan. Again, he conducts webinars almost every Wednesday at 12 noon. We do let him take vacation every now and again. So he does take a Wednesday off here and there, but almost every Wednesday. And I'll be honest with you, it amazes me the numbers that we are still able to get with these webinars. For 2025, we're averaging about 132 people for every webinar that we've done so far this year. Here you'll notice 4,877 attendees for these webinars. And you'll see the different topics. They're not all about you need to sign up for deferred comp. They're investing 101, long-term care insurance, Social Security, Medicare, various different topics, just financial wellness and giving that opportunity to the members on a regular basis.
Can I ask you a question? Do we survey those participants to understand how many are currently enrolled in a plan or not enrolled? Because I think that's important, because sometimes what we've seen on the benefit side is people come to those meetings, but they take no action. So understanding, okay, our audience, but how many have we been able to convert if they're not already enrolled? Because I think that's important to understand that. Do we know that?
I believe that we ask when people register for those events if they're a member of the 457.
Okay.
So I could get those numbers for you, Marcia.
Because I think what we want to do is understand what people we still need to go after, even after they've attended a meeting. Is it, do we need to go after these employees in a different sort of way to see that we can make the conversion of employees? And then I think the other thing is with our group events, say for instance, because I know you go on site a lot. So how many of those people have we converted? And I know is that here, because you do talk about that in your monthly reports in terms of how many.
Of new employee orientation.
Yeah.
That is not in
Okay.
the annual review.
Okay.
If you'd like, I can put those numbers together and give you an annual number for 2020.
Okay, great. Because we've done a lot of hiring in 2024, but just understanding how many, what is our our flow through in terms of people who attended one of those meetings and how many have we actually been successful in enrolling? Because I'm thinking about, people, adult learning theory is that people, we need to understand what's in it for them, right? And so one of the things we probably need to assess is some people go to a meeting and they sign up. Other people, maybe they need, I'm thinking about, we do that big orientation.
Yep.
Maybe there's a link. Maybe the unions can put the link, and maybe they already have the link on their union websites. Maybe it's a one-page handout. Maybe it's, I don't know, but we need to really figure out what are the other touch points that we can reach people. And because we want to have a good conversion rate of 30%.
And I think, this is, I'm going off the top of my head, but I think for people that actually attend new employee orientation,
Mhm.
that day, filling out paperwork is in the ballpark of 50%. Because there's various different places that we go depending on where they are and what they do. But you bring up a very good point when it comes to continuously touching these folks. And one of the aspects of the report later on is that participant engagement program. And we do have the ability to add folks, what we call eligibles, into that program where they could continuously get nudges and say, hey, sign up for a comp. Be more than willing to talk with you about kind of getting some of that data in terms of, employees that aren't enrolled in deferred comp and how can we reach them. And we could add to that program and kind of initiate that continuous touch.
Right, because we, I talked to Chris about this, we are looking at employee groups by CUC code and also by department in terms of eligibility, who's enrolled, who's not enrolled, what percent. So that's something that we need your help.
Absolutely.
All right, because there's some groups that are really, like police and fire, they're probably at the highest levels in terms of participation levels. But when I look at other areas, they're at very low levels. And so those are the folks that we really need to target because those are the people that their contributions are going to make a big difference in their retirement, when they decide.
And nationally, what you see is if you just pull that, it's generally public safety or some of the more engaged participation base when it comes to the deferred comp than any other group.
Yes.
Along with utility workers. And somewhere in there, but the other piece I just want to touch on is the importance of the new employee orientations. Unfortunately, I don't have the statistic right, but we can follow up on that via Brad, but statistically, enrollment goes down.
Yes.
Shortly after, within like the first 3 months, if you don't get them then it goes down. And so it's why it's so important that the partnership that's happening around the new employee orientations here in the city and why you're seeing the great enrollment numbers on the Brad is having a partnership with the staff across the city is because of our ability to get in during those NEOs, if you are, the employee orientations to meet those employees. It's so important because once they're on the job and in it, it just goes down as far as their participation.
So, at the November orientation, do y'all do a sign-in sheet?
Yes. Or we get it from we might not pass out a sign-in sheet. A lot of times the person that coordinates will email us the list of people that were at the.
Or using that sheet you follow up?
We have,
Or those people that didn't sign up at that?
we do, we do have the ability to take that sheet and that's another spot where we can utilize that tech marketing campaign where we can add that information into that program so that the folks get those touches as well as we talked about earlier.
I mean, it might be better if you pass out your own sign-in sheet. Sometimes the different organizations don't like to distinguish that information out.
Yeah, for places that don't give it to us, we do have a text out of.
I don't know that course, but on page 31, instruct with the 322, this is one-on-one meetings regarding goals. that feels like a good time to get some feedback as to why people are rolling over. I'm struck that there's 320 meetings, and I feel like we're still guessing as to why people are rolling.
So that would be incoming.
Oh,
So those are people that are bringing money into the plan, most of which is probably drop money.
other one-on-ones for people moving money out? Or other ways in that interaction to have a voluntary survey, start collecting some data, but yeah, I feel like we're guessing at the rate of the relationship. But I'd like you to give some thought into how we can touch those people, if they after they've rolled over, there's something to this.
It's a great point, because when you look at the demographics right now, the number of folks turning 65 and retiring, and so that's not maybe the age appropriate for government employees. When you look just in the space as a whole, right, there's a huge shift that's occurring there with the number of folks retiring on a daily basis. It's hard to capture them. But what we do know is that there's millions and millions and millions of dollars spent in advertising to those participants, those very employees that are retiring, reminding them to not leave something behind, right? Whether it's called the orange money, the green money, whatever it is, right? They're saying bring it so that you can leave something behind. And it's one of the biggest challenges when you look at a program where you have a singular relationship, right? Where they have something else. And I'm not saying that's the only reason, but that's one of the biggest reasons, and is that they have other assets or things of that nature somewhere else. But to your point, like if there's a way that we can capture that, I think anytime that we can get insights, it's going to help us all be better.
Yeah, we're gonna start with this open. Seems let's not make assumptions.
I know Brian's not making assumptions. It's just, he knows exactly where his members are going to. Why they're coming to.
Sounds like we're gonna- Right.
But moreover, so Jeff, the request to address the rate by Brian, things I said, that's going to be a formal request for nationwide to revisit the rate in order, being direction or the partnership to actually act as partners and allow these trustees as a whole to comply with their fiduciary obligations. Would you like Chris to send that to you, right?
That would be great. I mean, I hear it loud and clear, and just I can take that and.
Yeah, Chris will send me in writing, and this is nowhere, the service is, everything's great, but there's a fiduciary obligation that we're asked to comply with. That's the genesis of all these discussions, is to protect the board and make sure that the board is exhausting all possibilities to keep the Federation range. So it is a sound person.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the role that you're in, because I know some of you are elected too, right? And you have to go back to your constituents and talk to them about what's going on, and if this is a pressing issue, and we see it is, especially retirees based on activity. I totally understand it. I appreciate that. So we're happy to answer some questions. Sure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Any other questions for it, or?
I do, but it's not you in mind, but just general statement. And I have to agree with Renee while we're looking at all this individual. The way the market is going, we better get ready and hold on. If people are withdrawing their money, how these accounts don't have nothing to do with the rate. They're scared of losing their money. So we might be looking at a worse reality, and we need to find out how we're going to deal with it. Because people are actually scared. The market is not doing well. It's up now for the last day, but when you're losing a whole lot of money and you in that mid section, like you 50 and between the age of 50, 60 and looking at going out the door to retirement, and you see your retirement account going down the drain. So 457 is like a retirement fund. The older group people, the 60 and stuff is already there. They put their money stable. That's why you see it over that way. And that's what they put these people in here are looking at the market, and we need to start really looking at it. I'm not saying none of the stuff is important, but for Renee, we need to look at the whole picture, because not it's going to be that rate that's going to drive the money out. It's going to be the total market, the industry that's going on with the tariff war fight, with the Ukraine war fight. And I know I'm talking political, but that's what drives it all right now. So we got to take responsibility going forward. The topic coming up, that's just my function.
And to that point, there's solutions that we have that we can discuss further on that if the board is open to that, or through the staff here as well. things like guaranteed income solutions, principal protection solutions, on top of just a fixed account where it's guaranteeing your principal. Because you're absolutely right, right? There's market timing risk for retirees. So imagine if you're retiring right in April of 2020 as the market was dropping as it was, or as we've seen here this first quarter. So there's solutions that are out there now that are new, that weren't here in the past, that the Secure Act 2.0 created opportunities for. And so we're happy to have those conversations again with it, whether it's with the board or with staff first, however you would like to approach it, but we're more than happy to talk about how we can help in that space.
So we're not gonna see each other second, but like I say, if we get it at credit union, it'll decide to look at it. So that's it.
Any other comments?
Motion.
Second.
Any objections? So moved, we're adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If we could keep it right, you guys want to go on to the next.
And we need to wait, Rock.
Yeah, like, if you take 5 minutes, because I think he has a hard stop, which is fine, I'll cover if he has to go, but selfishly, I don't have to.
I guess it's not.
But really,
No, it's,
That's my, y'all need to get out of school and they need to stop going.
We are going to flip the order and after we do the minutes, we're going to go with the presentation.
Either with.
Okay, I just,
Yeah, no. And I wanted people to know March 27th meeting. Motion to approve.
so moved.
Seconded. All, I hopefully approve, Carol, approve, Karen. If you carry it, hey, let's prove it. So just by way of background, on the private markets consultant search, recall that we had an initial search posted towards the beginning of 2024, and there was some technical compliance reasons it was reissued later in the year, October, December. 6 firms, as noted on page 2 of the staff report, submitted proposals. Initial review, thanks to Reverend Josh, and other staff who worked on this. We conducted formal evaluation with each firm. We looked at their experience, their team resources, research, stability, technology, fees, investment philosophy, their DE&I inclusion policies, as well as their engagement with local communities. We also looked for any non-funded firms and projects or costs that associated with transition. We eliminated one firm during the initial screening because they were not compliant to the minimum RFP rules, and then we eliminated the second due to perceived strength of the candidates, and then moved on to virtual multiple interviews. After having reviewed and considered all the relevant data, we invited 3 firms, incumbent Marquette, Harris Advisory, and Nikita to present to the full board today. On the bottom of the second page, you'll see the general overviews and statistics on each of the 3 firms. That ranges from headquarters to membership, private market, team numbers, totaling then we go on and the 16 pages. If you want to go ahead and move, you highlight some of the differences in what's being mean. So, yeah, there's definitely some, notable differences. You can see in the first two, there's a couple things I come to. There's the size of the teams. The EMED is a larger, significantly larger overall firm. You can see that by the total number of employees as well as the size of the private market team compared to the two. The notable differences in. Is there pluses and minuses with that? There are. And so, on the plus side, obviously, we have access to more research, sources, more people. Theory, perhaps better technology. What the negative or the possible negative to that is where we kind of fit in the overall client hierarchy or category. Now, every firm is going to tell you, regardless of how small or how big they are, that you're an important client, that they're going to attend to all of your needs. But the reality is, at least in some cases, is that when you're writing smaller check sizes to the managers of other firms, you may get more of a, I don't want to say cookie cutter because that's not necessarily fair, but you may get more of a one size fits all approach, again, depending on the firm. We run through each of the firms in some greater detail, their firm overview and expertise, the research, or the technology side, return. Yeah, so the DPIs are relatively similar, Marquette being the highest, and DPI meaning the stands for distributed to paid in capital, which means It's basically just taking the cumulative distribution to all the investors that are shown out, divided by the capital paid in to date. So all of them are either close or, above one. Again, PPVIs are relatively close as well. That's a representation of the total values of the paid in capital. And the gross IRRs, Wakita and Veers 16. Marquette, we have another one out for a second. So the one thing you'll notice is that they are recommended, and this is using the 2023 data, less investments. So you have less investments if you have one that performs, not as well. It's going to have a much larger impact. Obviously, if you manage a limited. And certainly something that's fair to ask about and inquire about. But I do think that's a very good factor, having less investments. Yeah, one does a little bit more.
And then one last thing before I look at this one, you could have fees too.
Yeah, that's where I was. That's all right. That was actually the last thing. I have some questions that are still covered. So in terms of the fees, as we always do, we ask for the initial offer and we go back and negotiate. We ask for the best, last, and final. For the most part, they held steady. Marquette came down slightly in their best, last, and final. They're on the lower end of the fees, $320,000 per year. Here's in the middle at $400,000 a year, and then Peter at the top at $455,000.
We currently pay more on market.
We pay them for private markets, $300,000 a year.
But to me, the scopes change, and the Marquette one, they didn't have a scope in the presentation, was there any chance of changing the scope or is it the same?
No, it's the same scope, the same services or the same things they've been doing for us since they were hired in July or August of 2020. And it's getting close to a 5-year, relationship right now.
Any other questions for me?
Hold them about 20 minutes or so. But sometimes if you they can't really find them, it's going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's doing everything.
Hey, right there.
Thank you for coming in. So everyone, take us through in about 20 minutes. Carol always took time to go.
All right, fantastic. And please do ask me questions. It's going to be awesome to make this interactive. My name is Judy Chambers. I'm a managing principal and board member at Makita Investment Group. I'm based in New York. I've been in the business for 26 years. I've been at the firm, including my predecessor firm, which we merged in 2019. Been 18 years this year. And so it's my pleasure to be here. I just want to thank you all for the opportunity to speak with you
today. I've worked in private markets my entire career. And certainly as an investment consultant, I've helped many clients, particular public, state, municipal plans to build out their private market portfolios. So I'm joined today by two colleagues, Raj and Balaj, and I'll let them.
Hi, everyone. Nice to be here. Thanks for having us. My name is Rajiv Ranade. I'm a Senior Vice President and Real Estate Consultant at Private Markets team. I'm also based in New York. And I've had a 17-year institutional real estate career spanning a few places across the globe and capital markets, investing, sustainability, and more.
Thank you for the opportunity today. My name is Balaj Singh. I'm also based in our New York office. I'm an SVP in the private market research team. I started my career in private markets close to 10 years ago, actually in Philly, in the Hamilton Lane. So, getting back and
And our team is further rounded out by Christy Fields, who runs the real estate group, and Molly Lestage, who's also on the private markets team in our Boston office. So overall, go to page 5, why Nikita, who is Nikita? You know, at the end of the day, as consultants, and in particular as private markets consultants, our job is to do a couple of things. You minimize your stress levels. Address
A lot of stress.
minimize your stress levels, keep risk out of your portfolio, and help you to maximize your return. And that's something that I think we do really well. We have a pretty extensive team. We've got 53 people overall on our private markets team. That team is bigger than a lot of other consulting firms. And so we work together in addressing private markets issues. So we cover private equity, private credit, infrastructure, as well as natural resources and real estate. And so we're not siloed. We meet every week together. We know what all of our clients are doing and most importantly what they're looking for in the marketplace. And then we go out to find it for them. We're all consultants and research people, so we don't kind of helicopter in one person once a year or every 6 months to tell you about what's going on in the marketplace. We monitor what's going on in the marketplace. So we know your managers really well. And we develop partnerships with our colleagues to really stay on top of the managers. We also have an operational due diligence team. So we work hand in hand with that team as well. So if God forbid there is a problem with the manager, we're telling you first before you get the email from the manager and so forth.
How many clients do you reach?
I work on 5 clients.
It's 5 clients myself. Yeah, it's usually 3 to 5 clients, and then we share the support for other clients.
Exactly.
And how you prioritize them on the 5?
Everyone's a priority, in particular if you're the lead on that account, which means as the lead, you go to all the board meetings, you're talking with staff all the time, you're presenting to the board, you're doing the research on the managers. Now, can we all do research on 100 managers? No, that's why we have a team of 53. So within our team, we've got people who are focused on private equity, venture, and what have you, but as a group, every Friday, we need to go over managers that we like. So everyone on the team gets to listen to that discussion and kick the tires as well.
And are you lead on all 5 or
I lead on 4 or 5.
what will be the most important?
Everyone. It's kind of like when you're a parent with big right? So we, as a firm, we've been around for 46, going on 47 years. And we do pretty much one thing, which is consult and work with our clients to help them to develop their portfolios. We're on the private markets team. We also have a general consulting team who we get together with every week. So we know obviously what's going on in the marketplace and with the other asset classes that are in our client portfolios.
Does Nikita act as a private equity consultant funds that also have Nikita as the general consultant?
Yes, so we are often the general consultant, but a lot of times we have another party that's the GC as well. So we're used to kind of those relationships with our clients. It just depends on how the client is structured. And how they have, some clients have a pool of consultants, some clients have just one consultant, so just. Yeah. Another thing about us is because we have so many people and we see so much in the marketplace, our clients don't all have the same boards because they all have different boards and different staff members and different preferences and different risk tolerances. And so it's our job to make sure that we're selecting the right people that's right for our client portfolios overall. I mentioned that we also do research, and so that takes up a lot of time, but it really helps us to be more hands-on with the managers in your portfolio. So should we get this assignment, the first thing we would do would be to reach out to all of the managers in the portfolio, make sure that we set up meetings with them if we don't already know them, and just develop that relationship so that we can better assess who's the right fit for the portfolio versus where do you have gaps in the portfolio that we would then start looking into.
Did you start that process already looking at what's in our portfolio?
No. So I mentioned the firm is 46 years old. We've got about 2.3 trillion of assets under advisement. I also mentioned we have general consulting practice, we have a private markets practice, we also have an outsourced CIO practice. And that's for high net worth individuals and endowments and foundations that don't have staff members, so they hire us on a discretionary basis to manage their portfolios for them. That does not apply to public pension plan. I want to make that clear.
And are those different people who do that? Do you do some of that?
I have one in particular endowment and foundation plan. Yes, but we also have an OCIO team that is a little bit separate from the GC. So, overall, we've been in the private market game for 3 years. And we've seen the market really advance over that time. And I apologize, I don't need page numbers. Page 7. So as a result of that, we have also built out our capabilities in terms of focusing on private equity. Raj and his team focus on real estate. We also have folks that do private credit, infrastructure, as well as natural resources, because those are things that our clients are very much so interested in.
Can you give us your opinion on the state of the real estate market right now?
Great question. It is the question. Look, I think from a short-term environment, the impact of interest rates is going to perpetuate. So we have another $1 trillion refinancing wall that's coming in the current year. That's going to run into borrowing costs that are 100 to 200% higher than those original loans. That's going to have immediate effect on values. So what's the opportunity there? I do think we're in a 2, probably 3-year period where you can capture a vintage that might be a bottom of the market, but I think it's a longer period of time. Each sector is different. So obviously, as we look around, the office market is different than the apartment market, is different than the data center market. Each city is different. And I think we're finding the fragmentation to be a lot more than, say, post GFC. Everything was crushed at the same level. But I do think it's an interesting time being playing within a longer term spectrum, restructuring your portfolio for that, and make sure you're capturing the vintage without taking unnecessary risks.
You said fragmentation, are we talking about the quality of, for example, the office building?
Sure. So Class A New York City office leases are at an all-time high. Class B New York City offices are at an all-time low. They could be next to each other. That's a very unique dynamic in that market. We're seeing that here. You'll see it anywhere, right? The Class A top quality product is just operating at a different level than stuff. So that's what I mean by fragmentation. And it's the same in every sector, every region. Certain markets have that in different ways.
It's going to take a long period of time. When you're getting in a discount rate, getting back onto a fair market value is really time.
Yeah, that, and I think you have time to play the window of the downturn. I think people will say this is the time, you only have 6 months, the window's going to close. I just don't think that's realistic, given how long duration, even a class A office property that has a lease coming up, that lease is probably coming back with 50, 75% of its original space requirement, right? So you'll have this long flowing experience thing. Again, GFC was 6 months and everything crashed. This is more within real estate. This started in 22 with interest rates rising. We're still in a high rate environment. Tariffs are problematic for construction. Supply is going to be constrained. So I think the rebound will happen. Is it going to happen this year? Probably not. Next year, maybe. So I think the point there is you have time to be strategic.
So that's the inverse, the window of opportunities.
I think the window is open.
Does that also apply to market with home,
Yeah, let's do
low and moderate income housing that everybody's talking about?
Yeah, this is a good question. So the big challenge we see is on the supply side, right? How do we build affordable middle market, middle homes? It's a huge challenge. It's something we prioritize in terms of looking at these managers and looking at managers who specifically target this space. I think we take a view that if you're not introducing new supply, it is hard to argue that you're doing anything in the affordable housing space. Meaning to be building homes, you also need to be building multifamily homes, dense homes, things like that. I do think that space, there's such a huge demand for it that the floor is very strong. You won't see a situation in which prices really collapse there. I don't think. We saw today home sales down, existing home sales down 6% month over month. That's the biggest drop since 2022. You're seeing this impact of broader uncertainty, right? Do you want to sell your home and go buy another one? Do you want to refinance at a rate that's, again, 3-4 times higher than what you did in 21? Those will continue being constraints, but affordable housing as a topic is something we take pretty seriously.
I know we're short on time, so maybe we thought we would focus on some case studies that kind of go through the various examples of how we build portfolio, how we help clients to transform their portfolio and so forth. I'll take you to page 36. So in general, in private markets, we like small to mid-market opportunities. Like managers that are hungry, that are really finding unique opportunities, not from auctions. As it relates to our clients, in this case study, we had a client who had been a long-term private equity investor, had been in the market for 16 years before we started working with them. However, their returns didn't really reflect how long they've been in the marketplace and all that they've invested in the marketplace. And again, with private equity, you're not doing this just to be the average, right? There are a lot of risks that you're taking. There's a lot of time. There are a lot of fees that you're paying. So you need to be getting above average returns at the end of the day. That's what your constituents have is for, to ensure that you're doing. So this client in particular was having some issues, primarily because of how the portfolio was constructed, lots of fund to funds, also very, I'll call it erratic deployment of capital, very little consistency, and missed out on a lot of key years, 2009, 2010, when we know those vintage years of private equity were really fantastic. Did not have a large staff. And so when we came on, in our pitch to them, we said, listen, you should really be doing direct investments, not necessarily fund to funds. And I said, well, we don't have the resources. And we said, you've got the people right here. You don't need to add any more people. That's the job for you. We really worked with them to really transform the portfolio by getting them into sectors and geographies that they didn't have access to. B, helping them to negotiate their fees with the managers they were looking at. And then also making sure that they were writing actually putting out the same amount of money, just larger checks to fewer managers, and just being more direct about the approach that they were taking. And overall, it really worked for them. They did end up increasing the allocation to private markets. Just this year, they were ranked on the top 10 public pension plans for investing in private equity. So, and they've just seen phenomenal fee savings overall. And so we think They didn't add one staffing person, right, during this entire time. So again, it's just about, everyone goes through a cycle, and it just depends on kind of how long you've been with private equity. And we always have to be thinking about what are the next steps. You know, we say with managers, we want to see them mature, but we also think with investors, your portfolio matures. And so what you're doing in year one is not the same thing that you should be doing in year 20, right? Because you're progressing as well. I should also note that this manager has 60% of its portfolio invested with emerging and diverse managers, thereby showing that it does work and it's worth the time when you have the proper man selection.
What's been your success rate? Find a similar size to us and a similar size private equity team. We were getting the rates to standard to explain.
So a couple things with that. So often with investment managers, because we know them very well, we're able to negotiate an aggregator fee. And so that's one. And then two, depending on how long you've invested with them, we'll be really purposeful in terms of giving you in a first close. If we know that there's a first close discount as opposed to the last close. So there are different things that you can do, you know, given your size, your reputation. The fact of the matter is, you're an investor of choice, right? People would really want to get the city of Philadelphia dollars. You need to be selected to give those dollars to. The power is in your control. So it's about your negotiating power. And then again, obviously there are lots of other public plans out there or other institutional investors. So if it's a matter of conviction that we like for you and perhaps some other people, if we can negotiate on your behalf and say, hey, this isn't just a $50 million check, this is a $250 million check across 4 or 5 institutional investors, then that's the leverage that we can kind of offer to you.
It's also a power of the platform that I think between general consulting, OCIO, and our private market consulting, GPs and the reputation of the firm, GPs want our commitments, because it's also a reflection of the market of the quality of their platform. And so we're able to negotiate on behalf of any client pretty aggressively. A lot of people want to do some of that.
Yeah, we can go to the next page on page 37. So these are real-time examples of the power of the Chiquita platform. When you come with scale, when you come with sophistication, as Judy mentioned, we can be first close investors because we have 50 people doing the work. So when we have to submit our sub docs, we show that number of strength with our client base, and we get a attractive discount for that. And it's what, especially so the case study here is highlighting credit. We've been speaking about private equity, but in credit, especially when you have contracted returns, your return band is relatively narrow. So the best way to juice your return at that point is how much can you reduce your fees? And so coming in with size, coming in on time, it's been effective ways for a lot of clients to add additional output to their book.
Actually, the key to platform. That's a great thing. Sometimes our staff take a source our own ideas. You have flexibility in entertaining, researching, doing due diligence on those firms if they are outside of your platform.
Oh, absolutely. Do that all the time. And that helps us quite honestly to build our database. And so we're going to kick the tires the same way we do with that manager and the manager that, you know, may have been on the platform. And we should also know, we don't have recommendations, right? So.
Yeah, it's always.
Yeah, we don't have, yeah, exactly. It just doesn't, given that we have 250 clients, it just doesn't work for us. I can't put something in client A who may only be in the market for 5 years that I can put in client B who's been an investor for 20 years. It doesn't always match up, nor should it, right? They're different people. Yeah, sure. So maybe Raj can talk a little bit about real estate.
Yeah, I mean, I know we probably only have a few seconds left. You know, I think in those few seconds, I think we've touched on the main parts, right? Customization and adaptability. There are clients who want, there's no one size fits all, particularly in private markets. The idea that we both are researchers and consultants, and so we're shoulder to shoulder with you facing the market and coming up with the ideas that fit your need. The one thing I really want to touch on in 8 seconds is our human capital principles. So we as a leader in working with union Taft-Hartley plans, we came up with a proprietary framework for thinking about responsible investing. That was created for one of the largest pension plans in this country, which has served as the framework for how many pension plans, Taft-Hartley union plans, think about responsible contractor policies, thinking about labor engagement. We have a very strong firm view that profit generation and work with respect are the same thing. And that is really ubiquitous within real estate, where we think about construction, we think about labor. It's really ubiquitous in private equity, where we think about private equity business plans and the impact on labor. So I don't want to leave without saying that, and that's a cultural thing.
Thank you very much. Any other questions?
One quick one. We got a big discussion on fees in the city of Philadelphia, being a preferred partner. Your proposed fee, $495,000 a year for the next 4 years. Back in detail, that's quite a bit higher than some of the other partners. That portion of our portfolio is performing very well for us. Why would we change to and pay your fee?
So since your last RFP, we've included now private equity, credit, real estate, potentially natural resources, so the scope has expanded. And you can always go with the low cost provider. Low cost provider, if you want to site fees, they're going to be. So we've got a lot of people working on helping our clients to customize fees, and how we really look at it is if we're increasing your returns, that more than covers. So it's not just writing the check, but at the end of the day, your constituents need to have higher returns from your private markets portfolio to offset or to supplement your public equity portfolio. And so we all know the portfolio construction is an important part of the marketplace. And so that's why we take the approach of giving you cost savings, bumping up returns, because that's what it's about.
Yeah, it's not really about the lowest check. I just want to be clear. It's performing very well today. Do you believe you could squeeze more juice out of that lemon to justify the fee? That's the question.
Yeah, I mean, again, and that also is based on further conversations with the board in terms of where are you right now with the portfolio? How do you move forward? There's market volatility right now, which means that's market opportunity for us. So there's a lot of work that has to go on there. And perhaps all the managers are doing well today, they may not be doing well tomorrow, but we have a team of people that's kind of ready to look.
Last night, I think from a perspective of the portfolio evolving, clearly in the last 100 days, we're in a new cycle. And I think just speaking to the real estate portfolio that we saw in the records, what exists right now in the portfolio is for the last cycle. I think the ability to evolve and adapt to what we're into now is going to be a very different thing for that next part of the portfolio's launch cycle.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you all. That's what you have. Should have loved that.
I know. Well,
With the pressure.
Hey,
Seven.
you can move it. So, yeah.
Hi. Thanks for coming in. Whenever you're ready, you can start in 20 minutes. And we'll probably have a question go on way. That works for you.
Okay. You ready?
Yes, I mean, I'm.
Very seriously, though.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Samantha Grant. I'm a senior consultant at Baird. And I will serve as a co-lead on this relationship along with Chris Shelby here to my right. I work with a number of large public funds, and I would be here to ensure essentially that your goals and preferences are incorporated into the portfolio that you and I will build for you. At the end of the day, the buck will stop with me. So if you have any questions, problems, concerns.
Many bucks.
Well, actually, yes. And so you know who to come to. I'll turn it over to Chris to introduce himself.
Yeah, thanks, Sam. So as Sam mentioned, I'm Chris Shelby. I am a member of our private markets team, managing director and senior consultant on that team. I'm based out of Pittsburgh. Don't hold that against me. But I've been doing this for about 18
minutes.
I've been doing this for about 18 years, working with public pensions across all of the implementation stages, both due diligence, but also program design, which we'll talk a little bit more about today. So as Sam mentioned, I will be the co-lead alongside Samantha to address all the portfolio construction and other matters that come with building out the private markets portfolio.
And good morning, everyone. My name is Faraz Shoshani. I head up private markets research and consulting at Veris. I've been with the firm for 19 years. I served on the firm's investment management committee. So thank you for having us, and we look forward to presenting the form.
Okay, so on page 5, I'm going to kind of zip through about Veris because you're familiar with us a little. So essentially, we want you to know that we are a growing firm. Over the last 5 years, our assets under advisement have doubled. And so we have opened offices to help support that growth, and namely in Pittsburgh with Chris and Mark Brubaker, who we met about a year ago, and then myself and 2 other colleagues in Chicago. One of the other important things on this page is that 4.3% of alpha generated in client private markets portfolios, and we'll come back to that a little later. On the next page, this is page 6, you can see some of the clients who we work with, many of who are of similar size to you. We prefer to work with clients in that $1 billion to $20 billion range, and that is because clients of that size are able to have really targeted direct private market programs. We've worked with plenty of the clients seen here on this page in building and maintaining their private markets programs. And if we have time, we can walk you through a few examples a little later.
The clients you can serve.
I work with 5 clients right now, mainly public funds.
I do as well.
And 5 is actually the number for me. It's across the different sectors, but 2 are public funds, and 1 is a public university that also has a pension.
Thank you.
We provide the equity consulting and general consulting for any of the firms.
Yes, we do.
I'm sorry.
Yes. Yeah. So the next 2 pages, 7 and 8, really highlight some of our capabilities on the diversity and ESG front. We know these things are important to you, as they are to many of our other clients, both on the public side and E&S side. And so we've worked these priorities into our due diligence process, mainly through the questions that we ask firms. But you'll also see this in the recommendation memos that we would prepare for you to review when you're considering the private markets investment. So as we head into the next 10 minutes, hopefully I'm on time. If we move to page 9, there are a few themes that I want you to keep in mind. And they're starting with concierge service. So our goal is really to work with you hand in hand, fund by fund, to help build out your private markets program. The resources that you see here, myself, Chris, and Faraz, we wish to be dedicated to serving you. Next is unconflicted access. We are 100% employee owned. However, some of our other competitors do manage investment products. So they are getting money for being essentially investment managers. That we take no part in that.
In addition, we do not hold any manager-sponsored conferences, so all of the money that we make comes from relationships like yours and the one that we're proposing today. The result of this is that basically we can get you access to funds, and it's unconditional, which is important. Third is our discerning approach. I can tell you right now, we do not work with every firm. We will say no more than we say yes. However, we are very particular because we're focused on generating that excess return for you. And then lastly, exceptional results, a history of value add through program design, manager selection, and implementation. And Chris will start to talk about that. But first, I want to make sure there are no other questions on the firm or anything else.
We can, excuse me, look forward to slide 11. There's 4 boxes on this slide, so in the top left. So really what we want to do right now is just give you a feeling for what it's going to be like working with us going forward to both maintain, but also build out some of the private markets portfolios as we seek to generate different exposures over time. This is a highly customized and conviction-driven process. So as Sam said, we're not just sitting there recommending a broad swath of funds just to fill an allocation bucket. We're really finding the best managers to fulfill exactly what you're trying to accomplish. And what do I mean by that? Really, we start this process with assessing the program. This is something we will do internally. Samantha and I will work with Faraz. And then we're going to come back to you with a series of questions. And ideally, if you have an hour, at least 15 minutes, we'd love to spend at least that time with everyone at this table, understanding your goals, the roles, your preferences for different investment managers, and the asset classes within the private markets program. So private equity, private credit, private real estate, and private real assets or infrastructure. So we're going to ask you a series of questions to accomplish this. So are we looking just to maximize returns? Are we looking for diversification? Are we looking for a combination of the two? Most likely something in the middle, but each asset class may bring you a different type of thing. Yeah. Within private equity or venture capital, but yeah, that will be the case from time to time. And we're going to look at this program not just private equity, but holistically and in its individual silos. And that's something that we think we do a little bit differently than our peers. Other questions we're going to ask you, just other than just return expectations and things like that, but what types of managers do we want to work with? Are we looking at these managers just from an investment perspective, or they're non-investment features, either in the firm, how it's created, what the actual composition is, or the types of assets they're going to invest in? And should we lean into or out of any of those specific categories? These questions are going to help us kind of form a little bit more of a history about how you've made decisions in the past. And that's really going to help us fill in the gaps with any education we may need to provide if we're considering a new asset class or a new manager type or something along those lines. I'm going to let Faraz talk the next slide about how we develop a portfolio through sourcing and due diligence. But just quickly before I get to that, implementation and the monitoring process are very, very important to the actual success of the program over a long period of time. One thing we think we do a little bit differently, we have an in-house operational due diligence and legal due diligence team. So this complements the investment due diligence and really ensuring that the structure of the investments is appropriate to protect on the downside and giving you the rights and protections you deserve as a fiduciary to the overall asset portfolio.
And if a firm or manager didn't pass that ODD, we can't move forward with the ID. So
Exactly.
just like that.
Yeah, so these are processes that go along or coincide with one another. Really, all of this gets us back to that performance report at the end of the day, and we look at and see how the managers are doing on an absolute basis and relative to a benchmark. But also, are they accomplishing the goals that we set out at the beginning? Are they investing in the right types of assets that we hired them to do? Or are they buying some completely off the route? Is a private real asset manager buying real estate or something, that they really shouldn't be doing, just to get a full understanding of what the program looks like, and then kind of bring it full circle. How do we want to continue to build out that program going forward?
You're saying that there are certain firms who are not in business with it. After research, we signed up to move forward with them. Our staff has someone that's always sourcing assets. If they were, have you ever had a situation where a public pension fund came to you with an idea, specifically a firm, and back and say, no, it's time to do it.
Yeah, so I had this issue recently with a public pension fund who had been working with a manager, and we were recently hired. So we were doing our full IDD on the manager's strategy. We may have not rated in our process. And the manager failed our ODD. And so we went back to staff and said, look, like this is the situation.
Can you say why? How they do?
We felt the manager may be conflicted or that they didn't have enough processes to protect assets in place because it was like a family owned thing. So, you know, the brother ran the firm, he brought in his sister to do marketing, he has his brother trading. Like we just felt like there weren't enough systems in place, processes in place to protect assets. And then we felt that they operated their strategy in a black box, like what's going on in there. And they weren't really transparent with that. And so we went back to our client and said, look, you know, these are our concerns. The client actually acknowledged they had similar concerns, but they asked us to take another look at it. And we had that really deep conversation with the manager, and we're able to get to a place where we felt more comfortable recommending it.
So to be totally clear, there are situations where we may not agree to recommend, but we fundamentally realize that our role is to be a non-discretionary advisor. We educate you on what we see. Ultimately, it's your decision. If you want to go forward, we're not making a call on that. But typically, it's really a collaborative information sharing. We typically end up essentially at the same cost. I'd say more than 90%. So on page 12, I'll cover that. And, you know, you're clearly talking to other consultants, including others. Sam has touched on the fact that we are completely unconflicted. We don't have products. We don't make money by forming relationships with managers. We strictly work for clients like you. The other very differentiating point of the way we work is just sort of our philosophy and our edge, which is, you know, fundamentally, we sort of step back and say, what are private market return characteristics like? And when you look at the return patterns, the best performing managers relative to the worst performing managers, there's a very, very significant divergence in return profiles, 18% on average between top and bottom quartile managers. And that is larger than any other asset class. So if you invest with median or below median managers, you'll actually underperform public equities. And this is in an asset class that is very expensive. And once you make a commitment to the fund, you're tied up for like 10 to 15 years paying really high fees. So we acknowledge that and we say, okay, what we basically need to make sure that our batting average is really, really high. Selecting managers that are top quartile, above median, sort of in that tier. And then, so how do we do that? Diligence is very deep. It's later in the appendix, we have all the details on all the different steps we take. Broadly, it's a series of qualitative and quantitative work that takes many, many months to complete. Qualitative work, for example, we spend the whole day or more sometimes at the manager's office talking to all the investment managers and so on. But we also make a lot of reference calls with really anyone and everyone who's touched the manager in order to really understand what their strengths are and if those strengths are actually repeatable. Repeatability is something that I keep coming back to in everything we do in diligence, because we're essentially selecting managers that have proven in delivering top quartile returns. And typically around 10 to 15% of managers that we see from the top of the funnel are top quartile if you just look at fund level returns. But then we really go deeper into their portfolios and the impact that they've had on portfolio companies to really understand whether, again, those drivers of return that have generated those returns are repeatable. So I'll give you one sort of clear example. In 2021, SaaS, software as a service, was an area that really blew up. And all the managers in that space, they all looked to be top quartile. But really the underlying thing that was going on was rates went down, the market valued SaaS companies as if they're utility companies. So everyone's returns looked really good. And a manager could have had absolutely zero impact on the companies that they were holding in their book, valuations were up. That's not a repeatable phenomenon, right? It's here today, it's gone tomorrow. We didn't recommend a single SaaS-oriented manager in 2021. We've done that later as market values have come down, and we see managers that are actually doing things to their companies that are really improving. That repeatability is something we really emphasize. It is something that is very different about our approach. So when we say like no to a lot of managers, there's a reason why we say no. And not all consultants do that, right? Many consultants would be very comfortable recommending top quartile managers at the fund level. And I think the idea is it's not their money, it's not their product, clients invest, then that's what we don't do that. We really emphasize line of interest. And then the last point is that we assign private market specialists, Chris, to all of our clients to make sure that they're involved in building that portfolio.
Question, please. How successful have you been on behalf of your clients to negotiate the loan to each fee structure?
Yeah, great question. In private credit, there's a lot of opportunity to do that. In buyout, we just recommended a manager when we got a 10% discount on a fund that was way oversubscribed, like 2 to 3 times its capacity. So we do what we can, but oftentimes, a lot of times, like in specific estimates like venture capital or buyouts, manager selection is actually more important than driving down fees. We do what we can, but it's really not always fair.
So really, at the end of the day, we're thinking net returns back to you and your constituents. So, if we have complete conviction in a strategy or a manager and their fees are higher, what we're doing at the end of the day is thinking about what are you actually getting back to the portfolio, not exactly just what it is.
We get well after the alpha. You measure what more returns benefits.
It's a very important distinction as well with other terms. We were talking about ODD and legal. Like there are times whenever you can really push to get different protections for you that the GP, the investment manager, doesn't want to provide, and you can have those negotiations, which may at times be just as important as the fees.
I know there's a time issue, so I want to ask the same question about real estate. What are your thoughts on the current state of the real estate market?
Sure. So if you go to slide 13, we had a little bit, this is more general real assets, but I'll work that in. So, we understand, first off, your portfolio is significantly underweight to its target in private core real estate. If you look at why, I'm not exactly sure why you may have made the decision to divest, or I'm not exactly sure. We can figure it out. You may just not have found the right opportunities. We think there are opportunities in real estate. We think core, and we started this process for, let's keep me honest, in 2020 or 2021, maybe even before that, of kind of pulling back in core and putting more capital into opportunistic and value add type strategies that can really be a lot more nimble, and they're not kind of beholden to the asset that they own and trying to manage it better, therefore being much more beholden to a rate environment that they cannot control. So we think there are definitely opportunities. We think core is going to struggle for a little while. There are pockets of core where you're seeing some growth, different segments, either Southeast residential, that was a very hot market. Texas multifamily was a very hot market. Some of them are really pulling back, and these are areas that we just simply haven't recommended in the recent past. So we think there's opportunities. We just think you have to be incredibly selective in your geography and property type, instead of just having a broad, hey, we like real estate or we don't. We actually put together an annual outlook called our Real Asset Outlook. It comes out every spring to early summer, and we take every category of all real assets. But this includes different sectors within real estate in the US and globally. And we say, what are the headwinds? What are the tailwinds? What are the considerations we really need to focus on? And where are the opportunities? And we take all of that and we use that to develop that kind of recommendation where we should be investing, even in a challenged asset class like real estate.
Trying to surmise what you said. So you think the open and core is too general right now that we have to be more discerning and specific in your choices? Is that what you're saying?
It's in as many words, yeah.
No,
And we have that outlined on slides 21 and 22. Just some of our preliminary thoughts on your portfolio. Didn't have access to your entire private markets portfolio, but we did have access to something from 2023, but we're sure it's outdated.
Yeah, the February performance report that's online and then a very dated
Yeah.
underlying fund performance report, so.
But these were just some of our initial observations, but basically we would want you to diversify out of core and potentially use more closed-end exposures to make up that performance gap that you're seeing right now.
Have you seen any long queue, people trying to get out of core real estate?
So
It's not a trick question.
well, every year we put together we also do the private real assets outlook, but we also do a core real estate survey. And so we ask all of the managers in the Odyssey about, what does your redemption queues look like? What do your subscription queues look like? What does your portfolio look like right now? Where are you heading, et cetera, et cetera.
There are very few growing for real estate funds, right?
Very few.
And really, let's go in detail. There's a secondary market where there actually could be opportunities to buy some of these funds at 50 cents on the dollar. So that's whenever there's a supply and demand issue that you need.
Just in the interest of time, I think the big picture is we don't select any manager that works through the door. We're highly selective there. And specifically in real assets, the annual outlook that we do, we don't play in every sector of real assets. Timber, ag, there's been really no returns in that space for a very long time. We haven't put a dime of clients' capital in those sectors. Our idea is not to just diversify for the sake of diversification. These private assets that are really expensive, they're there to really generate that return out, right? So we pick and choose where we play. Very quickly, I know we're running out of time on page 14. 2 points there. We have a dedicated team that is focused entirely on private markets. We do them, that's all we do. There's a core team of 11 supported by 8 analysts. This is a team that is highly experienced. 2/3 of our team have been together for more than 13 years with experience more than 20 years. So we've seen lots of ups and downs. We have many relationships with managers that, as we do the research, hopefully you'll repeat and continue repeating for clients on a go-forward basis. And then last but not least, all of that, I think has resulted in really good returns that we're proud of. And
So this was literally one of the reasons I joined Barrett, because of their strong track record in private markets. So here on page 15, we have our private equity track record. This is a 15-year track record. And you can see that we've had really strong performance that we've helped our clients generate, really partnered with them to generate. So for instance, your goal in private equity is to outperform by 300 basis points over public markets. You can see that we've provided about 430 basis points of alpha over the S&P 500, which is one of the hardest benchmarks to beat over the last 15 years. But not only that, in the second column, you can see that we've also outperformed the private equity universe. And so that's the type of collaboration and partnership that we really want to bring to you. Yes, if staff has ideas, bring it to us. We will help you vet it and let you know what we truly think of the investment. Are there any questions? I know I'm at time.
Tell us how you feel. Your fees. Like, what are you gonna bring us the fee that you're offering? That you're asking us about the offer?
Well, we're gonna bring everything. I mean, whatever you want us to do, we'll do.
There are no add-ons. There's no hidden
there's
fees in our arrangement with you. The proposal is everything we just talked about, full access to research, obviously, Samantha and myself. We have a detailed list. I'm not going to read you, but it's all encompassing program design, manager selection, ODD, legal, performance reporting, all back.
There's no like a extra fee for search per se or anything like that.
These budget fees go within the industry standard.
Yes, Faraz, do you?
Yeah, I mean, look, we participate in similar situations, and very much, I'd say 80% of the time our fees are smack dab in the middle. So that's market.
Yes, the same question about your 2-year fee proposed and then, that's the final, and kind of helps you along there. Quite a bit higher than some of the other people. An asset class that's performing well for us, we're not trying to fix it, we're just always looking for more, right? Can you justify the increased fee? Why would we go with you in this class to justify the increased fee?
I can start it off, but I will let you finish, Parag. To be fair. I think it's because your portfolio is going to be your portfolio. The investments that we recommend for you, we're recommending for you. We don't have a list of 600 managers, 600 firms that we're working with, and we're just choosing random ones, and every client is getting this fund at the same time. That's just not how we operate. And so in order to have something that's truly customized to what you want, it is a little bit more expensive to generate that. We're not working with the largest private equity funds, the largest VC funds. That's just not our model. We're looking for specific teams and firms that we think can really drive alpha over the next 10 to 15 years for you.
Thank you. So what I would add is just going back to the first point, which is we don't have any investment products, right? So some of the firms, quite honestly, when they work with clients like you become sort of the bait on which they can then hook the managers and get a lot of fees from managers. We don't do any of that, right? Like, so we need to be our people. And to do that, we think this is sort of like very lowest level price that we can offer while remaining conflict free, while really doing our best for clients like you. So that's probably another reason, but really I'd say the other way that, we could run the firm is hire a bunch of very recent college grads to run diligence, and we just think you really need experience in this space. So
Thank you
very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Oh,
Waiting until Brian will get back.
who?
Yeah.
You?
Brian and Willie, yeah, we better wait till they get back. Yeah.
You? Well, I didn't know about this guy. Good.
No.
Sure, absolutely.
So you know I'm in time, right?
Yes.
Don't get winded. You tell me.
I will do my best. I will do. She'll prep the room.
That's right.
Why did you first? You.
Yeah. Well. I think you're honest.
That's all.
I didn't believe it.
Yeah.
Which means he didn't have. Coming into last signature on that. It's free. I know. Sitting, I'm in a lot of meetings, but I didn't figure out how to get up and walk away. Yeah, I try to keep it rolling with that. And then, and then that part. Renee left as well.
Yes, sometimes.
Like she snuck in and then she snuck out.
Sometimes I do confuse the two.
Not like it hasn't happened before.
Yeah. Let's go, the video.
I have noticed. So, at 20 minutes, Carol's got the timer. So please proceed.
Right, told them to get longer with it.
Well, good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, everyone. Really, we'll keep the introductions brief as, you do know the team, welcome to the team. But very quickly on page 2, this gives you a sense of what the team looks like. We are supported by other colleagues within the firm. But these are the faces you typically see work your staff interact with on a regular basis. So that's the very quick introduction to that. Now, with respect to Marquette, quick recap on the firm. A little over 415 billion at the last count in assets under advisement. We're about to enter our 40th year in the business, and 99% client retention. Really just pointing to the fact that client service, making sure that we have a very strong relationship with clients,